This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers from The Truman Show with mentions from The Cable Guy, The Real World, The Mask, Ace Ventura, and Liar Liar. For full list, please see show notes. There's also discussion surrounding death of a parent.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the fantasy, literature, and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing the 1998 classic, The Truman Show, starring Jim Carrey.
Which was suggested to us by friend of show, Becky. Happy birthday, Becky. Thanks for the suggestion. Thanks for getting us to talk about it. Because, Laura, what has your experience been with this movie?
Ooh, great question. Great question. Okay, I saw this as a child. I did not like this movie. All right, context, background. I grew up very near / adjacent to the area where this was filmed in Seaside, Florida. And I have actually vacationed in Seaside, Florida a few times. I've been to that grocery store with the ladders.
Oh, cool.
It's very hoity-toity. And as a child, I was always pissed off to go in there because they didn't have like name brand like Cheetos or like junk food. It was all just like the weird stuff that I'd never heard of. That
it's like Annie's rabbits before Annie's was a thing.
Yeah. It's just like, oh my God, what is this? I just want like it was a whole thing. Anyway. So it was very well known growing up that like this movie was being filmed. So when it came out, everybody saw it. Like everybody saw it. It was the thing because it's like, oh, we've been there. Okay. Did not like this movie when I first saw it because when I saw it originally, I could not put my finger on why I didn't love it. I didn't have emotions or like feelings or like thoughts enough to express why. Now I know. And now I love it. But then, no. It was the same feeling I had with The Cable Guy with Jim Carrey. It's just like sometimes his stuff just like rubs me just a little bit weird. And this one in particular, looking back as a child, I just felt very uncomfortable. I was very uncomfortable with the whole concept. I didn't really like that there was like ad placement in there. I didn't understand why that was like really there. I didn't understand why like everything was so fake. It was like so obviously fake. And like, why didn't he understand that it was fake? You know, cause you're a child and like everything, you know, everything when you're a child. It's like, how could you not know type thing. But now
you're very astute to certain things too, that I feel like most children would be like, this is so uninteresting, but you're like, you're dumb. Why didn't you pick up?
I was just really uncomfortable. Now I find it very sad. And, you know, I find Ed Harris's line is like, we accept the reality that is like presented to us. It's very timely now. Now it's worthy of like a lot of deep reflection. But when I was a kid, I was just like, oh God, I don't know. There's no like love story here. There's no like jokes. It's not very funny. Like it's just the beach. It's a place I've been to 1,000 times. Like why are we so worked up on this? It was then interesting to step into the world of reality TV and see like what actually came of it, especially now when we are all reflecting back on Spencer and Heidi in reality TV. It's just all like really full circle. And again, though, I do still feel weird about all of it. So okay, I've been talking a lot. Tell me.
I feel like you've feeling weird about it because how it kind of feels like a lot of the things have come to fruition. Because let's remember, this movie came out in 98. the idea and concepts of reality TV were only starting. MTV was known for like MTV Real World, and that really, I feel like, was the extent of it to my knowledge. But this is like, oh, here's this concept of reality TV that everybody, you're always being watched. It's like, it's entertainment, but it's also the idea of you're always being watched. And then everybody's in on this joke except you. So you have like the conspiracy conversations too, right? And for me, like my experience, I don't remember much of the experience. I was telling you, I remember where I was sitting. I'm pretty sure like my biological dad and stepmom, like we were watching it, and I only knew Jim Carrey from The Mask or Ace Ventura or even like Liar Liar, like all of his other works that are acceptable for kids at that time, where even some of the jokes go over your head. But this, I think I just knew him as the actor. So we would sit at home. We watched it as a family, but like, I didn't care. I didn't know the depth of this at all. And I did. So I just didn't care. So then I didn't remember it. I had only seen it once. I never returned to watch it. And then I think, remember when we discussed the Mean Girls episode, you had said like, I've seen bits and pieces. You understood it on a very foundational level within pop culture, but the depth and the extent of it wasn't so familiar. And that's how I felt with this, good morning. And if I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And then understanding that he was breaking down this world that essentially has been a lie to him his whole life. And that was really the basics of it. So going in and watching it, and when we're recording the episode, we're recording this episode on January 19th, 2024. So a lot has happened.
Roller coaster.
I can't even say 24 hours, 12 hours. A lot has happened, and a lot will be continuing to happen as we go into the 20th of January, 2025. That's what I meant, not 2024, 2025. So to have watching this in the context that we have in the news cycle that we just had, being under the scrutiny of microscopes, lines that are being said in this movie, like you said, you're just like, it's sad. And the discourse that's surrounding this and the control and monitoring the platforms at which Truman is being exposed to and being gaslit, that he misunderstood the information that he was receiving. It's a lot, and this feels kind of heavy in some ways.
Kind of heavy, kind of icky, kind of very icky. Especially when we get to like the second half of the movie and we go behind the scenes, we're up in the moon, we're getting the interview, we're seeing how things are really run. Like that section of the movie is just like, hot damn, I feel so gross. But there's a lesson here, like there's always lessons here. Jessica, who is in this movie? Do we know?
I think we should say like our key characters. We have Jim Carrey as Truman. His wife Meryl is played by Miss Laura Linney. Ed Harris plays Christoph, who is the director/creator of The Truman Show, which has been around for 10,909 days. That is 29.8 years. That man does not look 29 years old. I'm so sorry, Mr. Carrey. And Holland Taylor plays Jim Carrey's Truman's mom. And Paul Giamatti's. They're heavy hitting names. So, yeah, I feel like, and those are pretty much our key characters, because Paul Giamatti is kind of like the production AD kind of situation, because let's remember the Truman Show has been orchestrated since before birth. And it's been all hands on deck for the last 30 years.
For the last 30 years in a controlled environment in a town called Sea Haven that is able to be seen from space. It's a big giant dome. Oh my gosh, this movie. Okay. I think we can do like kind of broad strokes here and then just kind of talk about how fucking weird it is and parasocial relationships because like hot damn. But we have the cold open. Also, wait, before we get into it, this movie is a solid 1 hour, 43 minutes. Let's get back to this, people. Let's get back to this. Let's get back, except Wicked. Except I'm not talking about Wicked. Don't
forget, you have to be specific with your ass.
Be specifics. I'm not talking about Wicked. Give me all of Wicked, part 1 and part 2, multiple hours. It's fine.
Director's cut, all of it.
All of it.
We don't have enough.
Yeah, it's fine. But for most things, a solid 90 minutes would be lovely. An hour 43 is fine. Like, this is good. This is manageable. This is, you're kind of like, okay, how much is left? And you go look, you're like, oh, just 20 minutes? That's fine. I can hold it. Like, it's not it's one of those. It's good. All right. Okay. Cold open here. Ed Harris. We entered a time where we were just tired of actors, but there's nothing fake about Truman. It's a life. It's genuine. Hot damn. What a setup. All right. If you've been listening for a while, then you know that I have a background in religious studies. So if you go into this with the idea that Ed Harris as Christoph is God to Truman, like he's God. He's vengeful. He's all-seeing. He's all-knowing. He's ever-watching. Like, that's God up there in the sky. And especially when he talks to Truman at the end. Oh my gosh. So it's really going in with that context. You're just like, woo, well, that's something too. That is something too. But you know what I really did like? You brought up the real world. I was a road rules girly. So I really liked the credits to like the Truman Show. Right? It's like Truman Burbank, Meryl, introduction, interviews, Marlon, best friend.
Yeah, like when they had the confessionals, leading into their role they play into Truman's life. Because they're like, it's all real. We're told what to do, but it's real. It's totally scripted, but like it's real to him because he isn't in on this.
Yep. It's all real. Nothing's fake, just controlled.
Just controlled.
Ah! That's the thing. And, Meryl is like, this is my life. It's a lifestyle. Like, this is who I am. It's a privilege to be here. It's a blessing to be here in the Truman Show. God, Laura Linney is so good. But even all of that is all of these credits. You're just like, okay, that's weird, but sure. All right, fine. And then we have, the 10,909, just as you say, we have our mere imagination, introduction to Truman, and we get his like little morning routine, and you're watching this guy, and I think it's fun to cycle through all of the emotions where you're like, oh, ha 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 ha. Oh, okay, we're really doing this. Oh, they're really everywhere. Oh, everyone's really in on it. Oh, it's really just him. And it gets smaller and sadder and weird, right?
I just remember thinking, one of the initial thoughts I watched for this episode, I was thinking, and that's, we talk about who we are at our core and the type of people we are and how sometimes it feels like a struggle to be a good person when everybody around you who's succeeding is the opposite of that. And you have Truman here, who's genuinely a good person. He's genuinely saying hi to his neighbors. He's being pleasant with everybody. But at the same time, there's a core to him that we find out he's an adventurer. He is still in love with the girl that he's loved since high school and was the one who's told him the truth and trying to piece her together so he also doesn't forget this memory of her, because who is this person that I love so much, who there is an inkling there that what I see isn't exactly the truth. And he's constantly chasing this with a sense of positivity.
Overwhelming positivity too, and not toxic positivity. He really is, like you say, a good person. Like if I, good morning, if I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, but right here in the beginning, literally his world crashes down on him when Sirius, the light, falls straight fucking down in the middle of his street. And he's like, what? Nobody saw this? And he's like, picks it up. It says Sirius. And, but then he's driving and another part of it that just is so sad to me. It's like the radio is only for him, right? Cause like he's having a conversation with the radio host, but the radio host is like, actually, listen, you know what I mean? Like he can hear it. It's, and then, the news is like, it's all tailored to Truman. He doesn't get actual music. He gets classical music, calm you down, classical music. Like it's controlled.
Everything is controlled. And I feel like the radio, like you said, is talking to him, but it is a way to communicate with also everybody who's in on it, where we're at in this storyline. Something crashed. So if Truman asks you about it, you're like, we're ahead of the game. You're like, yeah, I got a piece of the propeller, or like something random. So that way, if he's questioning everything, everybody's on the same page.
Yep. We have our newspaper, Dog Fancy, fashion magazines, we love that. We love our two advertisement, men, they come over, Truman, they push him up against the wall. It's the advertisements every time. They're all different. We've got to get those ads in. Interesting. He is, Truman, an insurance guy, I believe.
Yeah.
And he secrets himself away real fast and calls. He's like, directory for Fiji, please. Is there a listing for Sylvia? What about Lauren? Sylvia with an S. No? Okay. And he's cutting out pictures of women in fashion magazines that he is buying, quote, quote, for his wife, which on the first go through, you're like, ooh, that's fucking weird. What are you doing that for? What are you doing that for? Are you a fucking weirdo? And no, he's not. It's just another layer of like this kind of like sadness that we have. But then again, Jess, as you say, everything is controlled. We have to remind Truman that he can't leave. So, hey, Truman, go in the ferry to the next island over. Go close this account for me, my guy. Can't do it.
Yeah, it's challenging his fears to keep him sequestered, to control that he can't leave, to remind him, remember your fear, you might be going to Fiji. And the only reason he's interested in going to Fiji is to find his high school sweetheart.
Yep. I have to say, I like the ass out gardening. It's just very Dumb and Dumber to me, which is another one. It's just very funny. It's like the ass out gardening. Meryl, the 3-in-1 peeler. Ha 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 ha. And mowing the grass, like the ads. Now that is a beer. Marlon always has beer with him whenever he's with Truman, and they're hitting golf balls off that bridge. And Marlon stocks vending machines. That's his job. Truman's adventurous spirit that constantly gets snuffed out is one of the saddest storylines going through here. But again, control. And again, if you look at it like Ed Harris is God, this is all just kind of, this is all can be looked at a different way. But hot damn. It is also, again, very sad that they had to manufacture a nice dead dad for Truman to stay on the island and double down on this fear of the ocean and this fear of boats and this, this fear of everything. And they had to traumatize this kid because, like, again, this is a TV show. This is this guy's real life, but this is a TV show. You have to keep the viewers interested.
So we have to, because it's like, it's real to him.
Yeah.
That's the saddest part, is that his dad really did die.
Right in front of him.
He watched his dad die. I'm sure the way, and it's painted that way, that he puts blame on himself. We wouldn't have been in this boat if it wasn't for me. We wouldn't have gone further if I didn't push him, Meanwhile, we as the viewers know that the guy is still alive, was saved by the snorkeler. Everything is a production. All the world's a stage and we are mere characters. And the only one who doesn't know that is Truman.
Yes. And that's reinforced to us when Truman is having this memory on the beach and he's reflecting and the storm comes and it only rains on him. And just like a little box, it only rains on him. And he runs away from it a little bit and then it slowly chases him down the beach.
Yeah, like they can't keep up with him. And it's such a great moment because he's like, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. And then they were like, oh shit, we got to make it the whole open sky. And he was like, and he, in his head, he goes, it's too late for that. I already know. Before we keep going into it, did you notice his last name is Burbank, and that is the city of most of the, like a lot of the Hollywood studios?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Production. I thought that was like, I know. It was, I was like, ooh, I clocked that right away, but the attention to detail.
Meryl is reading an absolutely enormous baby book in the unfinished room in their house when Truman comes home wet as fuck. And she says some devastating shit to him. She's like, you know what? Like, we can't leave. We have mortgage payments. I thought we were going to try for a baby. You're acting like a teenager. Devastating shit. Woo.
Yeah. And like minimizing the things that he wants to do, minimizing that he wants to go on an adventure. Like, and this is also the larger conversation, because keep in mind, if this is 1998 and these are adults in 98, these are the same adults who flash forward to today in 2025 that tell us in our grand ages that we're not acting like adults. Why do you get to dictate what an adult acts like?
Mm-hmm. 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 Just because he wants to break out and be free. But of course, that is the thing that he cannot do, because that would just end the careers of all these people, right? They say that it takes the income of like a small country to run this production, because it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, live, uncut, like, this whole stuff.
That the fact that it's running in a bar too, like, that most bars have sports, they have something or another. One of the TVs is like just programmed to have this running 24/7, because the operation is 24/7.
So the next day, Truman starts to kind of see that things are breaking down a little bit. We have our dog fancy. We have our newspapers. The headline, "Who needs Europe? Who needs travel?" Thank you. Interesting. There's also a homeless man that's there, and he is swooped up. The way that he is swooped up by the cast is like spy level type coordination. We have distractions. There's all sorts. The runner, wind. Mm-mm.
They weren't even smooth about it, though.
No, not at all. The dog, the bus, the taxi, everything. The
cross country team running into him.
The cross country team. And they get him on that bus, and Truman's like, stop that bus, stop that bus, stop that bus. And away he goes. And then, the dog's running around. But then he sees the bus go, and then Truman turns around, and everybody's acting like it didn't happen. And he's like, what? Wait a minute.
All they do is gaslight him.
And then the sign behind him, the big city sign, if you translate it, says one for all for one. So one for all. And all for one.
For the one.
Oh, Truman. Oh, Truman. So what does Truman do? Obviously, he's upset about this. He sees his dad. He goes to his mother. And his mother is like, Truman, you're not crazy. And he's like, what? She's like, I see him all the time. I see him 10 times a day. I almost hugged a stranger in the park. The thing that I like about this is that his mother does not fucking make eye contact with him. Every time she talks to him, she's looking kind of off to the side. So like her face is here, but like her eyes are over here. And she's just like, and is not giving any sort of eye contact to him. And that's awful. Imagine what his childhood was like.
Yeah, and and let's remember, this isn't somebody this is a cast member.
Yeah.
This is an actor. This is a person he believes to be his mother. but he was and that's what gets so sad, because it's not because like, oh, it's not, I'm not saying that like adoptive parents aren't real parents, because that's not what this is. Because later in the film, they say a corporation legally adopted him, and we'll get into that whole conversation. So it is the corporation that is his legal guardian.
Yeah, and just oof, oof, oof. And then, of course, his mom says, I don't blame you, Truman. I didn't then, I don't now. Holy shit. Holy shit. Just the trauma. They don't need to be saying or doing this stuff to him. They are doing all of this for ratings. But this is all, to him, real life, right?
Real.
It's all real.
Why and they couldn't put a therapist in here either, because they would be paid too.
Yeah, it's just woof. All right, so what does he do? He goes back home and he starts going through his all his kid stuff. He's looking at his pictures of his dad. He's looking at Lauren, Sylvia's scarf and his clothes from that night. His wife comes down and starts talking about the mower, and she's like, "You should really get a new mower." Haha. And he's like, "What?"
Yeah, all her product placements, because you find out again, it's all advertising. It's all paid for by advertising dollars.
Everything that you see is for sale. So we do have the memory, though, of high school, of where we see Sylvia for the first time, right? Like, you know, they're making like eye contact, like across like the field. And it's like, oh, this whole thing.
And then the production of it, because the production goes into like dream sequence mode, because you have like two of the servers or bartenders behind the bar. You have the new one who's like, wait, I've never seen this show before. And you have the veteran. She's like, let me catch you up, because there's always going to be the one that he's still pining for and he can't forget it. So like we're getting caught up of like what his memory is probably going to.
It's so sad. It's so sad. Meryl interrupts their like eye fucking, and that's how we are introduced to Meryl. She's a cheerleader. And, you know, we have the library scene. You know, if you don't come with me right now, we will never be able to go, you know, down to the beach. And then we have more like gaslighting, right? Cause like they kiss and this girl tells Truman like, it's all a lie. Like everyone is pretending, everybody knows but you, like, and then her dad comes and starts gaslighting the fuck out. She takes all her boyfriends here. It's not just you. You're not the only one.
She's schizophrenic. She doesn't know what she's talking about. We've tried to control her, and you can see that that's not going so well.
Yep. Yeah. And she's like, it's all a set. It's all fake. It's all for you. You know, she's insane. You know, you're not the first. You know, get out and come and find me, Truman. And then we get the, you know, we're moving to Fiji. That's where his fixation for Fiji comes from. And then just as you say, the waitress is like, well, why didn't he just go get her in Fiji? And the other waitress says, well, his mom got real sick right after this and he couldn't leave her. He had to stay and take care of her. They are traumatizing this poor boy. But then we see that in the back of Meryl's like photo, Truman has been building the photo of Sylvia's face. And we get Sylvia's reaction to all of this as she is watching, because she is watching the Truman Show at home, seeing him build this face of her for all of these years. Like, it must be really something.
Well, you can see that she's like, oh my God, I'm still there. I'm still on the forefront of his mind. And that's not just a compliment. I think because she says like, he's smart. He knows what's happening and he's trying to piece it together. He doesn't understand how, but he's trying to figure it. He's like, how can I say something? And to people he thinks he can trust too, between his wife, between his best friend. Then you have the best friend saying like, I've known you since we were 7. Can you imagine also roping in a kid at 7 saying, we're hiring you.
Contracted for life.
You probably you're probably a child actor your paycheck is going to your parents. Parents are like forcing you to work. And it has to be a lie the whole time. At 7 years old.
It's sad. It's sad. It's sad. All right. This is where everything starts to break down. Truman is going to work, turns on the radio, and it fucking glitches, and we're hearing the crew.
And then the frequency is changing, and all of the people on set hear the radio frequency change in their ears, and they all cower down, and Truman sees that all.
And the crew is reporting on where he's turning, if they're in first position, are they ready, make sure the coffee's hot. And Truman starts to freak out a little bit. He's looking at the paper, crack down on the homeless. And then he starts to walk into work, and he's in that revolving door, and he's just like, no. And he walks away from work, and he goes to the cafe. He's really looking. He's really listening. He stops the bus. He stops the car. That's the iconic shot where he stops everything, and he's just like this in the middle of the street.
He's realizing he actually has control of everything. Yeah. And everything is revolving around him.
Yep. He runs into the cast building, right? The building that's under construction. And he sees like catering behind the wall of the elevator.
I love catering. That's the best place. If you have a good catering, catch me at that table all day.
They've got security guards like, Truman, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? They escort him out, and he's starting to like really freak out. He's really freaking out. This is where they go to the market, the one with the ladders that I mentioned earlier. And just as you said, he confides to Marlon. He's like, I'm on to something, man. Like, I'm being followed. Like, this all has to do, I think, with my dad. I guess cause my dad's alive. I think. And like, I gotta get out of here, man. Like, I'm fucking leaving. Like, I'm leaving. And he's like, okay, all right, okay, my guy, sure.
I can't get over how sad it must be, because here he is uncovering things, and he's uncovering the bigger picture, and he's trying to share with people that he thinks he can trust. And they're just in on it too. And he's trying to like tell his best friend, look, I think something's going on. We're here. I think you and I, but like, how sad that there's nobody who is trustworthy or honest in his life. He doesn't know that yet, except for Lauren/Sylvia.
Yeah. And also too, of course, Ed Harris says that later, but like when they're sitting on the beach and they're having this conversation, and Marlon's like, look at that, like, look at that perfect sunset or whatever. It's not perfect. Like, it's like the sun is up, like the moon is kind of here, and like there's light everywhere. Like, it's not perfect. But again, we accept the reality that we are presented with. So then Truman is like, you know what? Don't you just feel like your whole life has been like building to something? And Marlon has to be like, no, he has to be the one to like kind of grind it down a little bit. So when Truman says like, you know what, like, fuck this, I am leaving. We are then met with baby pictures, wedding pictures, photo albums, pictures of family vacations. Mom is there.
And he's looking at these, and then he starts realizing the lies in the photos, like his wedding picture, and sees that Meryl's fingers are crossed, and he goes, wait a second. Mm-hmm. Like, these are our vows. And putting those and saying what he's recognizing and waiting for the reactions. Like when he says, he's trying to ask why his wife is just rushing away. She's like, I've got to go to work. There was this thing that happened. You know, right? We talked about this. And she's like, I got to go to an amputee. I got to go save him. And he goes, fingers crossed. And it was her reaction that solidified that he was once again onto something. Nobody can lie better, people. You're supposed to be an actor.
Lie Better, ACOFAE Podcast. And exactly though, because that's the moment. As soon as she turns around and she's like, he's like, well, all right, let's go. And he throws on his overcoat. I really like that brown suit, by the way. It's like the brown with like the rainbow tweed in it. It's very nice. Mm-hmm. And then he runs to the hospital because he's trying to intercept her. But like everyone's in on it. So they're throwing all these like people and these obstacles in the way. And then he actually finally gets to like this fake surgery room, and they're so close. They're like, I think I'm going to have to cut.
He's right there because they're like, and you have the person waking up, the extra
And they like get him away like just in the nick of time, but like it's this elaborate setup. And then Truman is just like, you know what? Fuck it. And he packs his bags and he goes to the travel agent who wasn't there because she was at lunch. Oh, I'm so sorry. I have nothing for Fiji for a month. What does he do? He goes to the bus. He's trying everything. He's done. He wants to leave. And Ed Harris will say it soon, but, he's at the bus, like, the bus breaks down. Why is he gonna go to Chicago? I like that the bus driver looks at him just like,
sorry, man.
I'm sorry. Like,
yeah,
I'm sorry. I did like that. I felt really bad for him. We get our little Pensacola mention. We love that. We love our panhandle towns in Florida. But then we have our talk in the car with Meryl. This is where he absolutely is realizing everything, and he's finished. He's finished.
And he's telling her, like, this is the sequence. Something's happening. We're in some sort of simulation, on some sort of time loop. I don't know what it is, but here's the order of things that are going to be appearing. And then it was 1, 2, and then she thinks that she's going to get one over on him. She's like, see, you're going crazy. You just think the third thing is going to appear. Third thing appears. He's thrilled, because it's another concrete evidence that he has that he's not going crazy. And she tries to placate him. Let's just go inside the house. Let's just go out of the car. And he locks her in. And now he's like, nope, we're going places. We're escaping. I need you to be in on this with me, that I'm not solo. Like, what do you know? What aren't you sharing? And then he starts verbally saying where he wants to go. So the production creates scenarios that wherever he's going is going to be blocked off. So then he says a different motive, says a different location. So that initial plan clears up, and he starts working against the system. And he goes, oh, look at that. How fancy is that? I didn't want to go there anymore. And now that's all cleared up. You're in on this. And they eventually get back home. He kind of holds her hostage. Not that I think he was going to do anything. It was more of a scare tactic. And this is where she breaks character and screams, do something on the production set. And he immediately goes, what did you say?
And that is really good, because he starts that conversation with Meryl after they're home, after he's captured at the nuclear power leak, after he's brought back that next day. He's looking at her. He's like, why do you want to have a baby with me? You can't stand me. And she goes, and goes right into her Rococo ad.
Yeah.
She's like, these are the best coffee beans. These are the best beans.
What?
He's like, what the fuck are you talking about? What does that have anything to do with what I just said to you? What is happening? And then she starts to break character too, because she grabs that peeler and she's like, Truman, you're scaring me. And he's like, you're scaring me, essentially. Because, like, what the absolute fuck?
How do you expect me to carry on in these conditions? This is unprofessional.
Yep, this is unprofessional. Marlon shows up with beer at 9 in the morning. And she goes, make him stop. And she runs over to him. This is not professional. That's wild. That's wild. Because, how do you come back from? You don't come back from that. That's just really something. So what does he do? He goes with Marlon and he goes to the bridge and he's like, Marlon, I'm losing my mind. I'm the main character. I everything is revolving around me. And Marlon, again, grinding him down. Oh, well, you're the main character in the world. That's a lot of world for one person. Don't you think that's wishful thinking? Again, I've been your best friend since, 7 years old. We're identical. We do everything together. You're like my brother. I was only gone for a month when I was out of school that one time. I'm not in on it, Truman. There is no it. I mean, don't you see? I found your dad for you, Truman. Go to him. obviously, like, I understand and feel for Marlon how shitty, but like, how can you keep doing that? I don't know, right?
Well, and then because this is also another part where us, the viewer, sees the pan out of everything, the behind the scenes. We are seeing behind the curtain. We are seeing that from the beginning of the movie with the cold open, and he was like, look, it's real. We're in on it, but he's not. So all the actions are real. And then you have the pan out of finding out that Christoph is feeding Marlon these lines and trying to save this production. Because keep in mind, we're still in the 29th season because we have a commercial later on, like coming up in the 30th season of the Truman Show. And he's feeding the lines. He's telling which camera to operate when we have the dad reveal. We have the score happening at live time. The scene, different angles, different camera shots, this, that, the other thing for this real life moment for Truman, whole production for an audience. And it feels like the scene is saved and everybody can breathe a sigh of relief again that Truman has calmed down for a moment. And like the executive comes in like, you fucking did it. You fucking did it, Christoph. You saved that. Yay, money to the studio. Thank you.
Yep. They have T-shirts, the cast that says "Love him, protect him." Right? That is TV. Everybody's like crying and hugging. It's so amazing. It's so brave. But yeah, we're back in production now. This is the back half of the movie. We learn like 1.7 billion were there for his birth. 220 countries were there. For his first step, his first kiss, live 24 hours a day audience. Some people keep him on 24 hours a day for comfort. We started off with one camera. We have now 5,000 cameras. It is, of course, this is happening from the 222nd floor of the lunar room in the big moon. We're hearing about how it's actually, again, a TV show. So we're interviewing Christoph and they're like, what made you decide to write the dad back in? And it's like, well, we've had former cast members try to get on set before. We've been infiltrated before, but Truman was really upset about this. So we figured, this is the way to do it. And they're like, how are you going to explain like the 22-year absence? And he is so deadpan. He's like, amnesia.
Yeah, it's already been thought of. We've already have this orchestrated. We already have it written in. But I feel like what was the one, like first we had his first steps. He grew and so did technology. So we had to reimagine how we would go about this production. And I feel like everything that he's saying, again, this is in 1998 that this film came out. So like you're talking about somebody's life being unedited, unedited to him. Edited for us, the viewer, as we understand it as a show, more or less. It's reality TV. You have the advertisers. You have this person who is legally adopted by a corporation. And it just begs the question how it just felt like so much foreshadowing where here we are having people having success over sharing their children as family vloggers and using their kids as a source of income, where only not even a handful of states have laws to protect those children.
Mm-hmm. And again, Truman was an unwanted pregnancy that was one of 5, and he arrived 2 weeks early, and he arrived on cue, and that's how he was the one that was chosen.
So you have the conversation of he's free labor. Truman isn't getting paid for any of this.
Nope. This is his life. We're just watching like an experiment. Yeah.
It's all there. If y'all are picking up what we're saying.
So again, product placement, everything is for sale. There's a little joke here. The Hague called, that's very funny. Christoph says, we accept the reality that we're presented. And then Sylvia calls and she starts arguing with Christoph. Don't you feel guilty? And this is where Christoph starts to do the mental gymnastics. And he's basically like, no, out there is the bad place. In here is the good place. In here we're safe. In here is how the world should be. And this is where we get the big line. If Truman were absolutely 100% determined to get out, there is nothing that we could do to stop him. He would be able to leave if he really wanted to.
He can leave his cell at any time, or he can leave at any time, but Truman prefers his cell.
Yep. Oh,
I know.
And then just as you said, what can we anticipate watching for Truman season 30? And they say, well, Meryl is leaving Truman. So we will be introducing a new love interest, right? I am still absolutely committed to the world's first on-air contraceptive. Okay. Here's a little bit about Christoph and the God kind of imagery, which I thought was very interesting, is later on, Christoph is in the control room and there's a big image on screen of Truman sleeping, and he comes up and strokes the bridge of the image of Truman's nose. And it is this just very strange parasocial relationship where we are seeing so much of this person, but this person does not know us at all. And we feel so entitled to every single aspect of this person's life, but this person has no idea that we exist. So wow.
And even in this film, in real life, Ed and Jim, Ed Norris and Jim Carrey never met.
Yes. So it just adds this extra layer to it. All right. So now Truman has broken. Truman is done. He's done, but he has got to not let anybody know that he has decided that this is the day, right?
Yeah. I noted that. I put, he's deciding he's going to lean into the crazy in the game, and he's going to make it seem like, he took his meds.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He's in the mirror. He's an alien. He's the alien. So funny. I claim this as true mania. And he does the drawing, and then he looks at the mirror and he goes, that one's for free. That's our first kind of oh, okay. We go outside. The neighbors are the ones that say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. That's weird. We're haha, though, haha. We are introduced to Vivienne. She is our new love interest. Very 90s. You check that lip liner. Ooh.
Yeah, and her hair, and every single love interest they casted for him was a blonde.
Yep. It's whoa. Later on, he's mowing the lawn. And he's doing all his daily chores, and then he goes down into the basement. This is where we go. Our Paul Giamatti can't be fucking bothered to watch Truman sleep, passes it off on an intern, and gets caught then because Truman laid the classic teenager trap.
He made a fake body, did a snore track, and everyone's he's just been sleeping for a couple hours. And he's but in the basement? Because Christoph is you're supposed to keep me updated when anything's out of character. Of course he's out of character. His wife just left. He's going to the basement. He's clearing some shit out. The lights go off, and then he went to bed. And Christoph's no, that's not what happened. Roll back. And this is where we see that Truman has escaped and nobody has picked up on it. And even if Paul Giamatti's character didn't pass it off onto the intern, he still wouldn't have picked up on it because he didn't even pick up on it with the rewatch.
Nope. And no one noticed the tunnel. He tunneled out. Geez.
Tunneled out. Where was the camera while he was digging the whole time?
Yeah.
It was behind the map. So how did you know that he wasn't there? And honestly, it's interesting. This isn't a matter of days because Laura, I know you love a timeline. At the beginning of the film, we have it is day 10,909. By the time he escapes, it's day 10,913. So he dug that hole. He must have been chipping away. Took some.
Yeah. He was ready.
Meds and he did no sleep.
Nope, no sleep. He was absolutely ready. So how do we find this out? Well, Marlon comes over. They start calling to see if he answers. He doesn't answer. They send Marlon over, tires screeching in his pajamas, a surprise party. I've got some beer here.
Could you imagine? It's one, to be on call 24/7 like that. But then two, if you ever came over to my house at whatever time, 3 a.m. or whatever it was with a 6-pack, or if I came to you, that would be what the fuck are you doing here if I was there?
Red flag.
This isn't undergrad anymore,
Yeah. Red flag. I do like the footage though of Marlon like climbing out of the thing, and he's gone. And they're like, got transmission. And everyone's like,
Well, this is the part that I wanted to bring up because they cut the transmission to the Truman Show, and you have all of these tiled Trumans with different colored backgrounds. And this adds, and I haven't heard anybody say this, maybe I'm just not listening to the right podcasts yet surrounding Taylor Swift, but to add to your parasocial relationship discourse, Laura, is that her whole Eras Tour campaign, everything was like her photos on different colored tiles. And even if it just felt like it was so significant to the Truman Show of being watched all the time and feeling like a sense of entitlement, I just don't think that anything is a coincidence when it comes to Miss Taylor Swift. So if it is, holy hell. But I thought that was just such an interesting connection because that is the relationship that so many people have with her.
Yep. You are so absolutely correct. So absolutely correct. And it is crazy. And I have not heard anybody say anything about it. One of my favorite parts here is when the moon becomes a spotlight. I love that.
That was also kind of like pretty badass.
Yeah. It was really cool. It was really cool. Because Truman's gone. We got to find him, right? We got to find him. Transmission's still cut. This is all the actors, all the extras, everybody banding together. They're doing search horn, party, like the whole thing. And then it's like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's make it daylight. Cue the sun.
That was crazy. What time is? And they kept trying to tell. Kept trying to tell Chris, it's not that time yet. It's not that time. He didn't give a fuck. There was no daylight. There was no like sunrise. It was just sun, and the whole town was blinded.
Yep, they're like, holy shit. They can't find him anywhere. Everybody's at first position in case he shows up to work. And then they're like, damn, check the harbor. We are not watching the sea. And there he is. He's in a little boat. He is in his little boat, and nobody can get to him because the ferry, they're like, they're actors. They can't drive the ferry. Like, are you shitting me? No. But they resume transition while he's on the boat. And then there's Christoph. That's our hero shot, right? Like, he's got hit. Truman's got the picture of Sylvia. Sylvia's like, woohoo! And here we have our wrathful, vengeful God, right? Truman is rejecting this paradise that Christoph has created for him by questioning its boundaries and wanting to know more and gain more knowledge. So now he is being tested by this angry, wrathful God by fucking weather. Very biblical. We are in now storms, waves, lightning, hit him again. He goes overboard.
Where the executive is even like, and I feel like Truman is thinking this too, they're not going to kill me off. I'm the main fucking character. And the executive is even saying that, like, you can't do this. And the director is like, fucking watch me.
Yeah. Hit him again. And Truman's like, is that the best you can do? Increase the wind, capsize him. He's tied himself to the boat. He'll drown. Hit him again. Like, and then finally, Christoph is like, all right, that's enough. And the sun comes out and the boat, comes up and Truman is alive and he's happily sailing. And then this is the part where I personally, Laura Marie, I lose my shit because he sails straight into the wall and he hits the wall and I start bawling when he like comes out and he like touches the wall and then he just starts like beating on it. Like, cause he's just like, oh, I lose my shit. If I'm in the right state of mind, it's an ugly cry. His
reality has, and it's the actual, like, every single time we keep saying it's the concrete evidence he needs. It's the concrete evidence he needs. But now it's just him. It's not friends. It's not his wife/ex-wife. There is nobody here at play except him and essentially tangible evidence that it's all been a set. It's all been a lie. And this reality has always been fictitious.
Yep. So what does Truman do? He gets out of the boat and he walks along the perimeter of the dome, and there's stairs, right? And there's stairs, and at the top of the stairs, there's a door that says exit. And what does Christoph do? Puts on a headset. I want to talk to him. I want to talk to him. I want to talk to him. Speak. I can hear you. Speak. Who are you? I'm the creator of a television show that gives love and joy and comfort to thousands, millions of people. Who are you? You're the star. What is this? Are you real? Is this real? You are real. And then this is where Christoph starts to spin his bullshit, right? There's no more truth out there than there is in here. It's all the same. Everything out there.
Same lie, same deceit. But in my world, you have nothing to fear. You're protected. He's like you said, you're protected if you let me control you.
Yeah. If you live this lie, you will be safe. If you accept this lie and accept my control, you will be safe. And this is where Truman's like, I never had a camera in my head. Like, it's everyone else. It's not me. It's everyone watching me. Like, it's, and then Christoph's like, I've always been watching, you belong to me. Like, you belong here. Like, you can't just leave. And then, of course, when Truman doesn't answer and he doesn't look at this, divine figure that's talking to him, he gets angry.
Yep.
And say something, God damn it. You're
on
live.
TV. Yeah. But I mean, talk about a toxic relationship, right? It's like, let me placate you. Let me love on you. Let me give you, sweet affection. And then when you're not reacting the way that they want you to do, it's the aggressiveness.
And what does he do? He turns around and he says, in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. And then he bows off stage and exits the Truman Show. Sylvia is running. She puts her coat on. She's running out the door. The bar erupts. Everyone's cheering. The cops, Sully, are high-fiving. The old ladies are crying.
I was like, oh my God, it's Sully. And then immediately was like, wait, that's not Hitchcock.
I know. It's like, Sully. Christoph is staring there in disbelief, cease transmission. And then we've got Sully and his buddy going, all right, what else is on? Done. 30 years of television that they've watched every single day for 30 years. It's over. And we move on to the next thing. Immediately move on to
which, again, timely. On to the next. How else am I going to fulfill my time? I can't just sit in this, especially when it's a form of entertainment for us.
Yep. Fun facts. I don't have very many, but I will give them as I have them.
Please.
Originally, this was the Malcolm Show with Gary Oldman and set in Manhattan. Very dark, much, much, much darker. No. This was compared to a couple episodes of The Twilight Zone. It's very Twilight Zone-esque. Jim Carrey took $12 million instead of the standard $20 for this. The wardrobe and kind of vibe of the whole thing was 1940s Norman Rockwell. Seaside, Florida, as we said. The director ended up shooting a half hour of an actual documentary. And that's how we got the True Talk interview stuff in the beginning. It was just kind of part of it. He just really liked it. As you said, Ed Harris and Jim Carrey never met. Dennis Hopper was going to be Christoph, but no. And Truman was written as a teenager, but no. Again, no. Jim Carrey improv'd a lot. It pissed off the director, but one of his improvs was the soap drawing of the alien and the Trumania little flag, and that one was nice. And then the twins, Ron and Don, who corner Truman and at the big advertisement every single day, they are actual cops in Seaside, Florida that were just like really friendly and had a good rapport with everybody. So they hired them as actors.
That's cool. That's really fun.
Those are all my fun facts. I didn't really have much.
Yeah, I didn't really find anything worth noting compared to like what you have. I have a question, and I feel like I know the answer, and I feel like regular listeners would know the answer. Would you have walked through that door at that moment?
Oh, great question. Yeah, fuck you. Don't tell me what to do.
Yeah. I figured, but I was like, for the record, let's put it out there.
Yeah, I've thrown up a couple birds too. Like, fuck you. Like, I got all the way here, and you're gonna tell me, no, don't do it. No, don't. Fuck you. Fuck you. Don't tell. I'm an Aries sun. Don't tell me what to do. Are you shitting me? Oh my God. I'm gonna do it out of spite. The American way. Out of spite. Get fucked. Yeah. What about you?
I feel like it would depend on my headspace because Capricorn and Virgo here, Capricorn, Sun, Virgo rising. In a matter of 4 days, I would be thinking like, well, what is on the other side? You know, like that part of me, but the spite part of me that if I was like driven to, you know how I get when I'm like anger and revenge fuel me more than anything. Yes, I'm talking about it in therapy, but I feel like, I feel like that part of me, if I was so pissed and I had gotten to that point, you couldn't have told me anything. So I think it would just depend on what frame of mind I'm in at that moment. If it was the buildup the way it is in this movie, it would have been out the door. But if I was like sitting with it and trying to contemplate it, it would have been different.
Could you have been one of the actors? Could you have been in on it?
No. Yeah, I don't think I could have. Because even when I work in entertainment, and obviously I hear different things, I hear it after the fact, and it kills me even then. And I'm not on the set, and I'm not on production with all of the titles that I work on. So it's interesting to, like, when I hear it after the case, I was like, and nobody said anything? That just like, what? What about you?
I think I could have been a cast member or like an extra or whatever when he was very small. But then like once it was like school age, that's too much. Like it's
yeah.
It's too much. It's you're really, really affecting like a person. Like,
well, look at like all the people who left set and would come back and try to tell him this is all a lie.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, I don't know. I think as it's easier to do things like this when they're a young child, but when that young child, just like in Stranger Things, but when that young child starts to ask the questions, I think that's when you have to just stop and answer them instead of the gaslighting and the lying and the controlling and all of that. But then again, in this context, that is the entertainment part of it, right? Like he doesn't know it's genuine. We were tired of actors. Like that's,
which is also an interesting conversation that here is they're saying we're tired of actors. And here we are having this conversation in 2025 where celebrity and stardom doesn't carry that weight the way it used to. I mean, people, were like, people don't care. A lot of things feel like others are out of touch and, you want to boo-hoo and cry. And it's hard to feel bad for people where you're like, you don't even understand the impact, where you're more relating to the person next door to you than whoever is just so far removed from real life.
Oh, real life. Who needs it? Who needs real life?
Honestly, right now.
No, we don't need it. We don't need it. Thank you, friend of show, Becky, for recommending The Truman Show to us. It is, as always, wonderful to receive recommendations from friends and listeners, especially this, because Jess, I think I told you before we started recording, I don't know necessarily that this is something that I would have gone back to actively like rewatch or necessarily to bring to the attention of the pod. But now that it is here, it does seem remiss that we haven't touched on it, especially in relation this is also very funny because it was another recommendation from friend of show Becky, but Josie and the Pussycats is also kind of parallel to this in a way.
When you were talking about the advertising and how you didn't like it as a kid, I found it so interesting because even when watching Josie and the Pussycats, the advertising didn't feel as in your face. Like it did and it didn't, because it was part of the storyline. And we were also at a different age when we watched Josie as opposed to when we watched and were exposed to the Truman Show for the first time. So where one felt camp, this felt like, what's the ulterior motive?
Yeah. Yeah. And this is just kind of my last point before we wrap. I do think that the way that social media is now, it is important to really examine your relationships to people online and kind of take a look at your parasocial relationships and see if they're like fucking healthy, because a lot of times like people are weird, and don't let it get weird, man. Like, let's be as happy as we can be with as many people as we want to be in a safe place, because hot damn, things are weird. And all we have to do in 2025 is fucking survive. And I think we can do that, but we have to be like really realistic about how serious kind of things can be, and just don't show your whole ass on the internet. Just don't show your whole ass on the internet. Keep it classy. And
if you wouldn't want, I don't know. Like sometimes I feel like maybe it was how we were raised, but if I wouldn't feel comfortable with an employer finding it, I wouldn't necessarily put it out there. Like, yes, I do like my Bryce cosplay and everything. If my employer found it, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, I'm going to get fired. I would be like, oh, here's this side of me that I kind of wanted protected, but I don't think I would lose an employment opportunity over the cosplay that I do. Let's just say that.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly the point too. It is, political shifts are weird, and there might come a time where that trench coat's got to be buttoned all the way up, and shit like that's important. So, keep eyes open, right? Ears open. Let's not be tricked into the safe place, right? Let's make sure that we are pushing, exploring, and finding joy.
And questioning our boundaries, our borders, our beliefs, our expectations, and our genres. We can find joy anywhere if we give it a chance and actually look. And with that being said, please feel free to find us on Instagram, ACOFAE Podcast. We're currently on TikTok. I don't know. We're figuring shit out. But there's platforms, and you all can find us how you've been communicating with us. We're exploring. We'll put it out there as we have additional avenues. But, like Laura said, 2025, 2020, survive. We'll talk to y'all soon. Thanks again. Good afternoon, good evening. And in case we don't see you, good night. Bye.
Bye.